Hi, welcome to another episode of Spill the Ink Show. This is a very special episode, guys, because we finally have our first male guest on the show. Yay! But this guest is also extremely special, and you will know why, exactly why, until you watch this interview till the end. His he is so inspirational that I believe that a movie should be made on his life alone. Yeah. So without further ado, let me talk about Ramendra Kumar. Ramendra Kumar, or Raman, is an award winning writer, performance storyteller, and an inspirational speaker with 49 books. His writings have been translated into 31 languages and included in several textbooks and anthologies in many countries. He's been invited to international literary events in Greece, Denmark, UAE, Sri Lanka, and major Indian events such as the Jaipur Lit Fest. An engineer and MBA, Raman has been the general manager in corporate communications for SAIL, and he's taken up voluntary retirement in 2020. He's a cancer warrior and survivor, and is today an inspiration to so many people across the country and world. Let's talk to him. Hi, hello, welcome to the Spilled Ink Show. I'm so glad to have you here. Um, how did your writing journey start? I mean, you've been a BTech and then an MBA, and writing is completely a, a creative process. So, how did that journey start?
So I started rather early. I wrote my first poem when I was around 8. It was a pathetic piece of verse. It went like this: Topsy and Tim went for a swim. Topsy swam well and broke the spill. Tim swam badly and went home sadly. It
No,
was
but
so
it's
pathetic.
no, but it's actually cute. It's like a rhyme. It's very cute. I
Yeah.
don't think it's bad.
Yeah, the proud poet in me went to my dad. Spilled on the piece of paper was this verse of mine, and I showed it to him. I was slightly apprehensive. He might say that, why aren't you studying maths like Putul auntie's daughter, or science like Chada uncle's son? Instead of that, you're writing silly poetry, or you could have done better than this. But he didn't do any of these things. He picked me up, gave me a tight hug, and said one word: wonderful.
Wow.
So if today I'm a writer of 49 books, a storyteller, and whatnot, it's because of that lovely gesture and that single word. So that's how I started. Then I dabbled with poetry, and a little bit of satire and short stories. Then, when my daughter was 4 and my son had just happened, now my wife was working in the same steel plant as I, and her hands were naturally full. So she gave me a lot of encouragement. She motivated me, she inspired me. She told me, "You're such a useless fellow. You can't boil an egg. You can't sing lullabies. You can't run a washing machine. You say you're a great writer, no? So you tell Ankita, our daughter, stories. While Tina, if your wife throws a challenge at you, you can't but pick up the gauntlet.
Yeah.
Especially if your wife is as beautiful and gorgeous as my wife Madhvi is. So I
Yeah.
decided to tell tales to Ankita. But since the ego is that I am, I said, why Akbar Birbal or Tenali Raman or Panchatantra? I'll cook up my own stories. So I started cooking up little tales, which she simply lapped up. I do not know whether it was my antics or the content, because I'm a great dancer, I think, and a terrible singer. So I would jump around, sing and dance and all that. and she lapped them up. And the ones she liked the most went to the word processor, and from there to the editor of magazines
Oh,
and the publisher. And that's how my journey as a writer started. When
okay,
Aniket
interesting.
grew up, he doubled the size of my audience, and almost every evening we would sit together with me telling tales and take them to a world of wonder and mystery and enchantment and gnomes and fairies and giants and heroes and villains. And on long winter evenings, summer twilights, and rain drenched afternoons, Ankita, Aniket, and I would be in this wonderful world of stories and storytelling.
Lovely, lovely. So I just read through it, and it's a brilliant, brilliant book. It's simple at the same time. The vocabulary is very good, and the plot is great. The setting is great. But how did you get into horror for kids? I mean, how did that happen? Was it inspired by some tales in your life? Did it
So
happen to
Aniket was
you?
always
Horror.
scary story by telling him these stories like at the stroke of midnight, when be around 7 8 feet away from me, and I would say at the stroke of midnight, Lakshmi entered the jungle. Chan, 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 chan. And as she went ahead, she heard a weird sound. And Aniket would start moving towards me. Suddenly, Lakshmi came across a huge building, and from inside the building, emerged a ghoul, his face dripping with blood. Tuck, drip, tuck, drip, tuck. And Aniket would come even closer. And by the time Lakshmi vanquished the ghoul, how the ghoul ate up Lakshmi, Aniket would be sitting in my lap, holding me tight and looking up at me, fear completely masking his face. And I'll tell you, Tina, those were the most delectable moments
How
for
old was
me
he at
as
that
a
time?
child.
I mean, what is
He would have been around 4.
okay?
This is my first book. It came out now, but the stories have been collected over a
Okay,
period of
okay, time.
time. I have tried to make them as different as possible.
Okay, nice, really, really nice. I mean,
So what is happening now is because the audiovisual medium is so intrusive now, there is nothing left to the imagination. So
correct.
for a writer, trying out scary stories is a huge challenge.
Hmm.
You have to be, you have to be very, very uh, realistic. You have to connect with the reader and not yet kind of, play with the sensibilities. I mean, you shouldn't think this is all too ridiculous.
I know.
So what I have done is I have tried to create characters which are very, very realistic, and at the end there is a spin. There is
Yeah.
a complete turnabout. So from the absolute ordinary life and living to extreme horror, when the switch is dramatic, I think
Yeah.
the impact is even more
The
forceful.
yeah.
I try to create
The,
characters just like a waterfall, a doll, even a TV screen,
yeah. See, that was
the sense of
brilliant
smell.
smell.
I've tried to create, yeah, horror in these simple things.
The twists and turns come at the right time, and when you're least expecting it. Also, like the first one I think was the chess play, the chess play or
The chess
something.
players, yeah,
Yeah, the ending was like I
yeah,
didn't
chess
see that
players,
coming.
yeah.
I didn't see that coming at all, and each story gets better and better as you read it. It's a brilliant, brilliant book, and
Thank you.
I would be asking my daughter to reread it next because she too loves this particular genre. It's a brilliant, brilliant book. It's for everyone. It's not just for kids. It's for all age groups. You'll have a blast when you read this. I mean, when you read this book for sure. Um, and what is tougher for you to write? Is it nonfiction or fiction? I mean, what would you say?
Very good question. Are equally tough.
Both are
They have their own challenges. For instance, there is no limit to your creativity or imagination. You
true.
can do whatever you want. It's your character, it's your plot, it's your setting.
Yeah.
But in non-fiction, there are limitations, because you already have a individual, you have a person, you have a place. So you can't take too many liberties. So there are certain kind of constraints. In fiction, imagination is the key. In non-fiction, a lot of effort goes in research. So both are, I would say that I've enjoyed writing both,
Both, yeah.
but personally, my favorite is fiction.
That's great. How different is it writing for kids and adults?
Difference, because kids in their feedback are extremely sharp, extremely transparent, and extremely quick, and they can be brutal at times.
Yes, 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 yes,
Now,
yes.
they don't layer it with euphemisms like
No,
adults.
no, no, no.
You want to be diplomatically correct.
Yes,
So,
yes.
for instance, my son had only two words: must and chart. Chart means in Hyderabadi, chat gaye. I mean, I got bored.
Okay, okay.
And must means
Must,
maza
yeah,
aa gaya.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
fortunately, my the stories got more must ticks than
Good.
chart ticks. That's why I have 49 books.
That is
So,
amazing.
and another thing is that when you write for kids, you are in that world of wonder and awe and
Imagination.
amazement and innocence,
Yes.
right? So that world, according to me, is idyllic. There is no end to your imagination. You can go anywhere and do anything. But
Interesting.
when you are writing for adults, there are too many constraints.
Hmm.
Then, most of all, I think when you're writing for children, you have to be also very, very careful. That's why it's very difficult. They're like sponges, they
Mm-hmm.
would absorb everything.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful that you don't insult their sensibilities, you don't patronize them, and you don't give them any kind of a value which is not done. You should be very, very careful the kind of values you're instilling in your stories
Yes,
so
yes.
that the kids don't get the wrong side of it.
Correct, correct. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I would any day prefer writing for children than for adults.
Yeah. It's tougher also, I think, because as you said, they are hard to please. They're tough to please and they'll.
So, for instance, in one particular conference I had gone, storytelling festival I had gone, there were around 1,100 kids,
Wow.
you know, and one of them just got up and said that, sir, you've written, then I had written 35 books, you've written 35 books, but how come we haven't heard of you? And there was pin drop silence. So I told her, little one, I'm not a famous writer, but I
Yeah,
think I'm a good writer.
that's a fantastic answer. And it's true also. It's very true. Yeah, that's a lovely response. I mean, do you believe in ghosts and did you have any encounters with them or none yet?
No, no, I'll give you an example of one of the stories, how it came to me. We had gone to Landu, the place where Ruskin Bond, the original
Okay,
Bond,
okay,
stays.
okay.
So we had a meeting with him it was supposed to last half an hour. We went at 7 o'clock, but he's such a great conversationalist. He's such a darling. So we went on talking, and by the time we came out, it was around 8:30. It had just stopped raining. It was pitch dark. It was completely overcast. The moon had gone behind the clouds. And as we were walking, there was a huge cliff to one side and a valley dropping to the other. The road was in between, a narrow road, and these Devda trees were, completely all around in the valley as well as in the cliff, uh, standing like sentinels. And as we were walking, the breeze, I mean, the raindrops had settled on the leaves. And as the wind, the gentle breeze caressed them, they would just drop one or two raindrops on our
Good.
head, and it was like 2 feet ahead. And the only sound was the sound of our footsteps. Tuck, tuck, tuck. Just then, Madhvi looked at me and smiled. And I just wondered, suppose she turns into a ghost, what's going to happen to me? But fortunately, she didn't turn into a ghost, but that gave me an idea to write a ghost story in the same milieu, the same setting, where a youngster goes to Landur to
Yeah.
do research on a ghost story set in colonial times.
Yeah.
And there he meets two ghosts, not one. So that story is called The Stranger, and that's one of my most popular spooky
Stories.
stories. So that's how I got an idea.
Amazing, amazing. So yeah. So tell me, which one do you enjoy more, writing or dancing? To be quite frank.
See, writing is my ikigai. It's my
Okay.
passion. It's my obsessive compulsive disorder.
Okay.
So there's no question. I enjoy writing and storytelling far more.
You can't live without
Dancing
it.
comes as a stress buster, a punctuation mark, an
Okay.
exclamation mark between the prose and the
Okay.
poetry.
Nice, 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 nice. Okay. And writer's block. I mean, do you face it? And if you do, how do you deal with it?
So I have never ever encountered the writer's block, though people call me a blockhead. For the simple reason that whenever I feel I am stuck in a particular genre of
Mm,
writing, I simply switch the category or genre
mm.
and write in something else. For instance, I have written uh, picture books, and from picture books to adult novels,
Wow.
and I've written biographies, my latest one, and
Wow.
I've written books on parenting,
Wow.
right?
This is
I've
something which I
written
want to
even,
get. This is some-
yeah,
something which I want to get next. Effective parenting.
yeah. And I've written books on the POXO Act. This is a comic book, the
Oh,
only
wow.
one of its kind in the country on POXO Act. I've written a graphic book
Wow.
on JJ Act, Juvenile Justice Act. I've
Wow.
written a comic book on diabetes. Then
Wow.
I've even written ghazals.
Oh,
Yeah,
lovely. Intiha.
yeah. This
Hindi.
dedicated to my wife, Inteha.
Hindi. I didn't know you
Yeah,
write in this language.
yeah, this is my first and last book so far in Hindi, all high octane romanticism
Oh,
dedicated to my
that.
beautiful, gorgeous wife. Yeah. So, and I've also written in various styles, like horror, sports, then what should I say, fables, folk tales, across the board. So, what happens is if you are kind of stuck in when I feel that my creativity is really not moving forward when I'm writing a picture book, then I move to something else. So that way, this writer's block and I have been absolute strangers so far.
This is so unconventional because nowadays people say you should stick to one particular genre. You should
No, no, never.
market yourself in a particular category. This particular genre. If you're doing this, you should just do this and go deep into it. And your take on the writer's block just kind of shatters this whole myth. Interesting. I didn't expect this answer at all, but interesting. And okay, so the next question is what was your initial response to your cancer verdict? This is a little unpleasant, of course, but this is something that should be talked about, I think, more. So,
Yeah.
tell us how did you take to it and how did you deal with it?
So
And
I was sitting in front of my uh, gastroenterologist on 29th November, at 12 o'clock. I had undergone colonoscopy and a few blood tests and all. So he told me, like he's reading the news on Doordarshan, Mr. Kumar, you've got colon cancer stage 2B.
Wow.
Your colon is riddled with polyps, some of which are cancerous. They are hanging like grapes. You'll have to go in for radiation, chemo, a couple of surgeries at least. You'll have to have a stoma bag and blah blah. So as I walked out of the his room, we went to the canteen. Madhvi, Ankita, Aniket, and I were there, and I just cut loose. I said, "Why me? Poor me? How come me? I don't drink. I don't smoke. I'm slim and trim. I exercise regularly. So how come this scourge has slammed into me?" There was tears. There was agony. There was angst. And believe me, Tina, then I looked at the faces of my family in front of me, and I found them crumpling. It was as if I was seeing my death in their eyes. At that moment, I thought, I couldn't do this to them. It was not their fault that I was suffering from cancer. And for me, family has come first, always, every time, each time. So I thought there has to be a paradigm shift in my narrative. I have to move away from this syndrome to something which is filled with more positivity. Tina, I've had a terrible, terrible childhood. I'm a product of a broken home. My parents divorced when I was just 15. At around the same time, I tried committing suicide. My father saved me. I've been plagued with a number of illnesses, like I suffer from brittle diabetes, so I have an insulin pump attached to me, and I've had trysts with tuberculosis, with a strange disease which is called hemangioma, where I had a polyp which was pushing at my vocal cords, and I was almost losing my voice. This was in 2016, and I had to undergo a critical surgery. I was rushed from Rourkela to Hyderabad, and the surgery was performed. And after that, this cancer slammed into me. But all during this entire period till now, my mantra has been very, very simple, battling every tumor with humor. And I thought at this juncture, I should go back to my mantra. And that is what I did. I came out on social media, on Facebook, on Insta with my story. And Ankita and I, 2 days after my radiation, generally after radiation, a person can't get up and walk.
Yes.
We did this dance video to the 80s chartbuster Janeman Haseen Dilruba. And it went, I mean, viral on
Viral.
Insta and Facebook. Yeah, it clocked 234K and it's still trending.
Yeah.
I filled, what should I say, the social media with fun-filled, quirky messages. I did a parody of Amitabh Bachchan in Diwar. आज तो बहुत खुश हो गए तुम. Another one of his soliloquy in Silsila, मैं और मेरी तन्हाई. He said, I said, मैं और मेरा कैंसर अक्सर बातें करते हैं. तुम ना होता तो ऐसा होता, तुम ना होता तो वैसा होता. तुम ना होते तो जिंदगी लंबी तो होती, लेकिन बड़ी नहीं होती. Like that. And that continued till I was declared cancer free. What I've gone through, Tina, is, I mean, I do not know. People say that it's a miracle. I went through 3 septic shocks. The probability of surviving one septic shock is only 20%. So 3 times I knocked on the door of death, said hi to Yamraj, and walked back to the land of the living. I survived 4 major surgeries, 10 rounds of chemo, 5 rounds of radiation, 40 days in ICU. And here I'm talking to you.
Unbelievable.
And through the entire journey,
Unbelievable. I'm actually shocked to hear the whole backstory of where, I mean, I knew about the cancer. I knew that you had some past sicknesses, but I didn't know you had such a tough personal life all along. It was hats off to you. Huh? I mean, I really don't know how most people would go through this, but I think, as they say, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. I think that's apt for
Yeah.
you.
And I was lucky to have a very strong support
Okay.
system in my ma. Amitabh Bachchan had his ma in Diwar. My ma is Madhvi, Ankita, and Aniket. They
Lovely.
were with me throughout, and it was such an ordeal. I was out in the ICU. They didn't know whether I would wake up after a few hours or I would just pass away. And they were managing everything, but they never ever gave me a hint. They never pressed the panic button. They never gave me a hint of the hell I was walking through every day. And then my online friends and offline friends, you cannot imagine my foul weather friends, how they came out in support. There was diyas in lit in temples,
Oh,
duas in masjid, Vedic incantations, Buddhist mantras. People were praying for me. They were writing columns. A very famous writer called me, she compared me to Rafa Nadal when he
wow.
was fighting that Wimbledon in the injury in his abdomen in Wimbledon, continued playing. Another lady called me Anand 2.0. A friend told me that I'm Ramen Sher Khan. So I told him, boss, at home and Bhigi Billy. And here you're calling me Sher Khan. And I was simply amazed at the love, the affection, and adoration. Tina, my friends and my family and I, we created a universe which helped me claw back literally from the jaws of death.
I
For
believe.
me, the biggest, takeaway is the worst of times often bring out the best in you.
Yes, true. Very true. Very true. Uh, you won't believe the same time that you had cancer, the same time my mom went through it, and I would share all your videos with her. And of course, the support. I mean, she was much older than you. I mean, she is way more older than you, but it is an ordeal for the whole family. But one
Absolutely.
and the path of prayers, I think that is something which really heals. And this, I see the same case in you also, where you had a lot of friends. And I think people like us who don't know you much also, we were like also doing our bit and hoping for the best, though we really didn't know, because but we
I
see,
know,
you know,
I know, it all
online.
works.
So
I just like to
yeah,
add
yeah.
the some of the coping mechanisms,
Oh
which are
yes.
very important, because not only for cancer, for any tough situation. First is, don't take yourself too seriously. Like one of the doctors told me that, Raman, you've gone on social media, you've gone out with all your messages and poetry and whatnot and all, but now it's the time for you to look inwards, to
Mm.
become antarmukhi. So I said, boss, for the last 6 months, I feel half of Bangalore is staring into my rectum. And my rectum has got more eyeballs than Natu Natu dance. How much more Antarmukhi should I get? And my brother in law, senior citizen, he believes in gravity while I believe in levity. I firmly am of the opinion that had he been in the time of Isaac Newton, he would have discovered gravity without the help of the apple. He's so serious. He laughs once a month when he gets his salary. So he told Madhvi, what is Aniket, what is Ramen doing?
Yeah,
What is Ramen doing? He's flirting with death.
I know.
He's making a
Mockery.
mazak,
Mockery.
of a laughing matter of something as serious as cancer.
Yeah.
He'll die in bits and pieces. So I told her, you tell him that Ramin will not allow any cancer to put a full stop, a comma, or even a colon or a semicolon to his creativity and humor. Tell him that Ramin believes in two philosophers. Gabbar Singh in 1975, who said, Jo dar gaya, wo mar gaya. And Pushpa in 2022, मैं झुकेगा नहीं.
Awesome. Awesome. I mean, not all will be like you or think like you. I think it's a personality trait also, and then how life's experiences also shape you. But again, as I said, hats off to you. I mean, what you've done is incredible. So now let's go back to writing again. Must read a short story, poem, or a book, in your opinion. It can be your work also.
So I would say the best the story which has impacted the maximum is one titled "How Much Land Does a Man Need" by Leo Tolstoy. If
Yes.
you haven't read it,
Yes, I've read
please
that.
read it.
Beautiful.
It's a story of a farmer
Yeah.
who's given the choice of covering as much land as he can in a particular day and coming back to the starting point, and whatever land he covers is his. So he starts walking,
Mm.
and he wants to cover more and more land because he's greedy and all that. So halfway down, when it's afternoon, he suddenly realizes that he might not be able to make it.
Yeah.
So he runs back,
Mm.
and he runs and runs and runs, and he's completely exhausted, and he collapses just before the starting point, and he passes away. And the distance is only 6 feet, and his servant digs a pit 6 feet long and buries him. That's how much a land
A
a
man
man
needs.
needs.
Yeah.
So it's such a strong, what
Lesson.
should I say, a wake up call for all of us, especially today
Correct.
when money and material things are also important.
Very true.
And as far as my personal creativity is concerned, this is a book called Against All Odds. It's been published by Penguin Random House. It talks about two very, very important things which are very close to my heart. One is about a marginalized kid. The protagonist has half an arm,
Mm.
right? So, and he wants to be a football player. And so this book is about a child, a young boy who wants to be a football champ, who's not allowed to play football, and he's bullied because he's handicapped. And I faced a lot of bullying as a kid, so I could relate to this particular
Character.
character. And I'm also extremely fond of sports fiction because I feel sports is a paradigm
Correct.
for life.
I've
So
heard
I've
you speak
infused
about this.
these two things.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
heard you
So
speak
I've
about sports.
infused these two
Yeah.
things
Nice.
about sports and about a marginalized child. And so this book, Against All Odds, is my favorite.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay. To those who want to be writers, authors, those who are.
First thing is, don't write for money, because if I was dependent on my writing, uh, I wouldn't have been able to feed my pet Labrador for a week, because
Yeah.
you really can't earn much as
No.
writers.
No.
Don't write for fame.
Correct.
Write for the pleasure of writing.
Mm.
Write to be in that space of creativity.
Mm.
I would write whatever the outcome. Even if my wife thinks I'm insane, my mother-in-law thinks I'm a gone case, I will continue writing. It's like I said, it's my ikigai. Read as much as you can in as many genres as you can. Then writing is about imagination, observation, and experience. So try to draw from these qualities. Like children have great imagination, adults have more experience, kids have great observation. So put these things together. It's like a pie chart,
Yeah.
and draw from these values. Then writing is about ideas. You have to be in the space of ideas. Anything and everything can spark an idea.
Yeah.
Then writing is about, don't wait for the ideal moment, the right pun intended moment. Write as often as you can, in as many ways as you can. Because if you wait for inspiration, you'll only get perspiration. So
Mm.
don't wait till for the ideal ambience.
So, with that, we have come to the end of another very insightful and entertaining Spilled Ink show. I hope you had such a blast interviewing Raman, because there was so much to learn from not just the writing aspect alone, but also on how to tackle life when it throws nimbus your way. So now off I go to drink my Nimbu Pani. Until I see you for another episode of Spill the Ink Show with another guest, you take care, stay healthy, keep reading, keep writing, and spurring your creativity. Bye.